Rat Salad. Let's take a listen, guys. Yeah. Whoa. Whoa. Wow. Those drums, guys. What the? What? Yeah. Wow. Guys, wow, rat salad. This was something else. This song, was just 2 minutes and 29 seconds. Wow. And after listening to it, I have to say the first thing that, hit me personally, is that opening riff. Yours truly, Tony Iommi, and Giza Butler, lock into this, bluesy yet, heavy groove. I have to say, I mean, it's got that Black Sabbath grit, but you as a listener, you can feel, how rooted, it is in the blues. This is definitely a reminder that, whilst Black Sabbath, were, pioneering, heavy metal, they were still, pulling a lot of inspiration, from rock and blues traditions, But the real spotlight here to me, that's, Bill Ward. This track, is basically his playground, for a big portion of the song, the guitar, and the bass, step back, and you are treated, to this extended drum solo, and what I loved about, Bill Ward's drumming, is that, it's not just about power, you know. To me, it's full of character. As a listener, you hear the swing, the jazz influences, and the looseness, that makes it feel alive. Unlike some other, rock drum solos, of that era, that were very technical. To me, Bill Ward's, style, feels more raw and spontaneous. Almost like, he's jamming, with himself, in a club. Now, I mean, you could argue that Rat Salad, is more of an interlude, than a full song. That's just my personal, opinion. At about 2.5 minutes long, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It functions almost like a breather, in between the intensity, of the other tracks, on this album, Paranoid. But at the same time, it shows how Black Sabbath weren't afraid to experiment with pacing of their albums. What I think is really really cool is how the track connects to their live shows. Yes, based on a few facts that I pulled up, back in the early days, Black Sabbath, would do long sets, and Bill Ward, would get, extended drum solos, on stage. Rat Salad, to me, is basically, the studio version, of that experience. So if you imagine hearing this live in 1970, it would have been a jaw-dropping, moment, in the middle, of their set. Yes. Once again, based on a few facts that I pulled up, comparisons, have been made, to Led Zeppelin's, Moby Dick, and I think that's fair. Both are, vehicles, for their drummers. But Black Sabbath, I feel like, put their own stamp on it. I love the fact that it's darker, it's dirtier, and less, polished, which, in my opinion, fits, their whole aesthetic, perfectly. Overall, I feel like a rat salad, might not, be the track you think of, when you talk about this album, Paranoid. But I mean, it's an important piece, to the puzzle, if you ask me personally. I mean, definitely shows, that Black Sabbath, weren't just about riffs and, Ozzy Osbourne's, vocals. They were a tight unit of musicians, who could, just let others, shine. For me, this track is like a hidden gem, and it definitely adds to the overall dynamics, of this classic album. So I'll definitely throw it to you guys. Do you think, Rat Salad, stands, on its own as a song, or do you see it more, as an interlude, within this album, Paranoid? And if you're a drummer, I want to hear your thoughts. How do you rate, Bill Ward's solo win, here, compared to other, rock drummers, of the era? Please let me know down in the comment section.